Welcome back to the listening room. There are moments that seem to stretch beyond time. A single heartbeat, the pause before a difficult decision, the instant between letting go and falling. Tonight's story lives inside one such moment. Written in 1890 by Ambrose Bierce, an American journalist, satirist, and veteran of the Civil War, an occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge is widely regarded as one of the greatest short stories ever written. Having witnessed the brutality of war firsthand, Bierce wrote not only about battles but about fear, hope, memory, and the extraordinary ways the human mind responds when confronted with the impossible. This is not simply a story about war, it is a story about time, about the distance between life and death, and about the worlds we sometimes create when reality becomes too difficult to bear. So settle in, listen closely, and step onto Owl Creek Bridge. A man stood upon a railroad bridge in North Alabama, looking down into the swift water 20 feet below. The man's hands were behind his back, his wrists bound with cord. A rope closely encircled his neck. It was attached to a stout cross timber above his head, while the slack of it fell to the level of his knees. Some loose boards laid upon the ties, supporting the rails and the planks of the bridge, furnished a footing for him and his executioners, two private soldiers of the Federal Army, directed by a sergeant who in civil life may have been a deputy sheriff. A sentinel at each end of the bridge stood with his rifle in the position known as support, that formal and unnatural attitude enforced by military drill. Far beyond one of the sentinels, the railroad stretched away into a forest, disappearing around a gentle curve. In the opposite direction, it crossed the bridge before vanishing among trees just as dense. Between those quiet woods lay the bridge, and beneath it, the restless creek. The stream hurried over rocks worn smooth by countless seasons. Sunlight shimmered across its surface, scattering broken reflections against the underside of the bridge. The current appeared strangely peaceful from this height, beautiful even, yet every man standing upon the bridge understood its strength. No spectators gathered to witness the execution, no curious townspeople, no grieving family, only soldiers, only orders, only silence. A company of infantry occupied the bridge's approaches. The men stood at parade rest, motionless as carved figures, their bayonets catching the morning light. Nearby, an officer watched without expression. Duty required neither anger nor sympathy, only completion. The condemned man appeared to be about 35 years of age. He was evidently a civilian, not a soldier. His clothing was that of a prosperous planter, well-made coat, fine boots, clean linen. His dark hair was neatly combed, and his short beard gave him the appearance of a gentleman rather than a criminal. Had one encountered him elsewhere, walking beside his wife through town, or supervising work upon his estate, nothing about him would have invited suspicion. He looked like a man accustomed to ordinary comforts, a man with a home, with responsibilities, with a future. And yet, this quiet bridge had become the final destination of that future. His name was Peyton Farquhar. Though the soldiers surrounding him did not know it, or perhaps did not care, he came from one of Alabama's respected families. He was deeply devoted to the Southern cause. Like many civilians, he had longed for opportunities to distinguish himself in service to the Confederacy. For reasons beyond the scope of this moment, he had never enlisted. That fact had become a source of quiet frustration. The war had continued without him. Battles had been fought, victories celebrated, defeats mourned. Others had earned honor while he remained behind. Yet patriotism burns no less fiercely merely because it is denied a uniform. If there existed some bold service, some dangerous task, some opportunity to aid the cause he loved, Peyton Farquhar believed he would willingly undertake it, whatever the cost. Now that cost stood only a few feet away. The preparations had been completed. Nothing remained except the final command. The sergeant inspected the knot, satisfied. The captain folded his arms. One private shifted his weight almost imperceptibly before becoming perfectly still once more. Otherwise, nothing moved. The silence became so complete that small sounds acquired astonishing importance. A leaf drifted into the water below. Somewhere in the forest, a bird called once, then fell quiet. The bridge creaked gently beneath the combined weight of timber, steel, and men. Peyton Farquhar lowered his eyes towards the creek. The water flowed with effortless certainty, never hesitating, never pausing. It neither knew nor cared about what was happening above it. His gaze fixed upon a fragment of driftwood floating downstream. How slowly it seemed to move. Surely the current below was stronger than that. Yet the little piece of wood advanced with impossible patience, turning gently in the sunlight. He found himself watching it with extraordinary concentration. Time itself appeared to have changed. Every second expanded, every breath lingered, every detail sharpened. He could distinguish individual ripples upon the water, the trembling of tiny insects skimming its surface, the movement of sunlight among the leaves overhead. Then a metallic sound reached his ears, clear, precise, perfectly measured. Tick, silence, tick, silence. At first he could not identify it. It seemed strangely loud, as though echoing through an empty room rather than open countryside. Tick, tick, tick. He searched for its source. Not the river, not the soldiers, not the bridge. Then understanding came. His watch, hidden within the pocket of his waistcoat. Never before had its steady movement seemed so thunderous. Each tiny click marked the passing of another second, another heartbeat, another step towards the inevitable. He wished, with sudden, desperate intensity, that he could stop hearing it. But the sound only grew louder. Tick, tick, tick. He closed his eyes, not in surrender, not in prayer, but because another image had risen before him. His home, sunlight falling across familiar fields, children's laughter carried on the breeze, the gentle face of his wife waiting upon the veranda. If only, he thought, if only he could see them once more, just once. The thought arrived so suddenly, so completely, that every other sensation disappeared. For one impossible instant, he imagined another future, one in which the rope somehow failed, one in which the river carried him to safety, one in which he could return home. The idea was absurd, impossible, yet once it entered his mind, it refused to leave. Above him, the rope hung silent. Before him, the creek flowed onward. Behind him, the soldiers waited. The captain gave a slight nod. The sergeant stepped forward. He adjusted the prisoner's position upon the plank. Then, without speaking, he stepped aside. The man who stood upon Owl Creek Bridge had not always been a condemned prisoner. Only a short time before, he had been exactly where he believed he belonged, at home. Peyton Farquhar was a well-to-do planter of an old and highly respected Alabama family. Like many whose lives had been interrupted by the Civil War, he was deeply devoted to the Southern cause. No service was too humble for him to perform in aid of the Confederacy. No adventure was too perilous for him to undertake, provided it promised even the smallest advantage. There was only one disappointment. For reasons never fully explained, he was not a soldier. Whether circumstances, obligation, or simple misfortune had kept him from enlisting, the result remained the same. While others marched, he remained behind. Yet he followed every report from the front, every rumor, every troop movement, every victory, every defeat. He longed, perhaps more than he admitted to even to himself, to prove his loyalty through action rather than words. One evening, while Peyton and his wife sat upon a rustic bench near the entrance of their estate, a horseman approached along the dusty road. He wore the grey uniform of a Confederate soldier. His horse showed the unmistakable signs of a long journey. Dust covered both rider and saddle. As was customary, Mr. Farquhar welcomed him. Mrs. Farquhar brought fresh water for the tired horse, while the traveller accepted food and drink with grateful courtesy. For a little while they spoke of ordinary things, the weather, the condition of the roads, the progress of the harvest. Eventually, as conversation so often did in those troubled years, they turned towards the war. Yankees are repairing the railroads, the soldier remarked. They have reached the Owl Creek Bridge. At the mention of the bridge, Peyton leaned forward with immediate interest. The bridge? Yes, the federal commandant has issued strict orders. The soldier spoke casually as though repeating nothing more than common news. Any civilian caught interfering with the railroad, its bridges, its tunnels, or its trains will be hanged. The words settled quietly between them. Peyton considered them. A bold warning. The soldier smiled faintly. They seemed determined to keep the line open. He took another drink, then added, almost as an afterthought, I noticed something while passing the bridge. Peyton waited. The winter floods left a great quantity of driftwood lodged against the timber supports. He shrugged. It's dry now. Very dry. It would burn easily. For just a moment, neither man spoke. The suggestion itself seemed almost accidental, merely an observation, nothing more. Yet Peyton's imagination seized upon it immediately. A bridge, dry timber, an important railroad, a chance perhaps to serve the cause. He asked quietly, suppose a civilian wished to reach the bridge. Could it be done? The soldier appeared to think for a moment. There is little difficulty. The picket on this side has been withdrawn. The nearest sentinel stands nearly half a mile beyond the bridge. Again, the information was offered without emphasis, as though it possessed no special importance. To Peyton, however, it sounded like an opportunity, the kind he had been waiting for. He asked no further questions. The conversation drifted elsewhere. Darkness settled over the plantation. The visitor thanked his hosts for their hospitality, mounted his horse, and continued along the road. Peyton watched until the rider disappeared among the trees. Already his thoughts had left the quiet porch. They had travelled to Owl Creek Bridge, to the stacked driftwood, to the silent railroad, to the possibility of doing something brave, something meaningful, something worthy. There was one fact, however, that neither Peyton Farquhar nor his wife could possibly have known. The horseman was not what he appeared to be. He was no Confederate soldier. He was a Federal scout. During the previous day, he had ridden north through Confederate territory wearing grey. Tomorrow, he would ride south again wearing blue. The bridge had been carefully guarded all along. The driftwood remained exactly where it had been left. The conversation upon the porch had not been chance. It had been a trap. And Peyton Farquhar, driven by courage, patriotism, and a longing to prove himself, had walked willingly into it. Now the trap had closed. The quiet plantation, the evening breeze, the general conversation upon the porch already belonged to the past. Ahead lay only the bridge, the rope, and the creek flowing patiently beneath. The memory vanished. The porch, the quiet plantation, his wife, the rider in the grey uniform. All of it dissolved, and Peyton Farquhar found himself once again standing upon Owl Creek Bridge. The morning sun still shone upon the water. The Federal soldiers remained exactly where they had stood. The captain watched without expression. The sentinels continued their silent vigil at either end of the bridge. Nothing had changed, nothing except that there was now no further delay. The sergeant had stepped aside. There remained only the narrow plank beneath Peyton's feet. For one final instant, he looked once more into the rushing water below. How strangely beautiful it appeared! The current caught the sunlight in countless fragments, turning the surface into broken silver. Leaves drifted lazily downstream. A kingfisher flashed across the creek, its blue wings bright against the morning sky. The ordinary world continued, utterly indifferent to the fate of one man upon a bridge. Above him, a faint breeze stirred the rope. Tick! His watch. The tiny metallic sound returned, clearer than ever. Tick! It seemed impossible that something so small could be heard above an open river, yet every click struck his ears with startling force. Tick! Time no longer flowed. It separated itself into individual moments, each one complete, each one impossibly long. He became aware of the details he had never noticed before. The grain of the weathered timber beneath his boots, the rough fibers of the rope against his neck, the scent of warm pine carried on the breeze, the distant murmur of insects among the trees. He could even hear the water speaking to itself below. curling around stones, breaking against submerged branches, continuing its endless journey south. He wondered, not for the first time, whether there might yet be some chance. If only, if his hands were free. He imagined them slipping beneath the noose, loosening it, tearing it away. He imagined diving into the creek, the cold water closing over him, the current carrying him safely beyond the bridge. He pictured rifle shots missing their mark, bullets striking only water. He saw himself swimming strongly downstream, reaching for the far bank, disappearing into the forest. The vision became so vivid that for one impossible heartbeat, it seemed like imagination than memory. Home. He would return home, would hold his wife once more. He would see his children. He would never leave them again. The thought filled him with such fierce determination that instinct overcame reason. His body tensed. Every muscle prepared itself for life. Above him, the rope tightened. The captain raised one hand. No command was spoken. None was needed. He lowered it. The board beneath Peyton Farquhar shifted. For the briefest fraction of a second, he seemed suspended between earth and sky. Then he fell. Ice-cold water exploded around him. The current seized him instantly, dragging him downward with irresistible force. The pressure struck like a physical blow. Darkness swallowed him. The roar of the creek became a single overwhelming sound. Then, pain, an unbearable pressure around his throat, a fierce burning. His lungs cried desperately for air. The rope. The rope had broken. Or had it? He could no longer tell. His hands were free. Somehow the cords binding his wrists had come loose. They rose instinctively towards his neck. His fingers found the noose, pulled desperately, twisted, fought against the tightening fibers. The knot gave way. Air. He burst upward through the surface of the creek, drawing into his lungs the sweetest breath he had ever known. The world exploded into light. The sky stretched endlessly above him. The trees along the banks shone with impossible brilliance. Every leaf seemed individually illuminated. Every droplet of water glittered like crystal. He floated for one miraculous instant, alive. Alive! Then voices shouted from the bridge. A sharp command rang through the morning air. A rifle cracked. The bullet struck the water only inches away. Another followed, and another. Peyton drew one desperate breath and allowed the currents to carry him away. The current bore him onward with astonishing speed. Peyton Farquhar did not attempt to swim. For the moment, the creek itself was his ally. He drifted beneath the bridge, his body hidden by the rushing water. Above him came the confused voices of soldiers. One shouted an order, another pointed downstream. A sharp report split the morning air. A rifle bullet struck the water just beyond his head, sending a spray into his face. He instinctively dived. The cold closed over him once again. Underwater, the world became strangely peaceful. The frantic shouting above him faded into muffled echoes. Sunlight filtered through the moving surface in wavering ribbons of gold. Tiny bubbles spun around him like drifting pearls. His lungs protested. His chest burned. Yet he forced himself to remain beneath the surface a few moments longer. At last, unable to endure him, he rose. His head broke through the water. He drew a great breath, filling his lungs with the cool morning air. Almost immediately, another volley. The reports echoed across the valley. He heard the unmistakable hiss of bullets passing overhead. One struck a branch along the riverbank, another ricocheted from a stone. A third vanished into the current with a sharp splash. It seemed impossible that so many men could fire at one unarmed swimmer. Yet they did. The bridge above had become alive with movement. Blue-coated figures leaning over the railing. Officers shouted commands. Smoke drifted lazily from rifle barrels. Peyton allowed himself to sink once more beneath the surface. Never before had he seen the world so clearly. Every sensation possessed astonishing sharpness. He could distinguish the veins of leaves hanging above the creek, the rough texture of bark upon overhanging branches, the wings of dragonflies glittering in the sunlight. He heard insects singing among the reeds, the rustle of squirrels in distant trees, the whisper of the current passing over submerged stones. Even the colors seemed transformed. The green of the forest appeared deeper, the blue of the sky richer, the sunlight almost painfully bright. It was as though every ordinary detail had suddenly become extraordinary. Life itself, every sound, every color, every breath, had acquired a value he had never before understood. Then came another sound, a deeper one. Metal, heavy wheels. He turned his head towards the bridge. The cannon. Federal soldiers had brought a field gun onto the bridge. He watched in disbelief as they swung its muzzle towards the creek below. There followed a blinding flash. A tremendous explosion shook the valley. The shell struck the water some distance ahead, throwing an immense column of spray high into the air. The concussion lifted Peyton almost completely from the current before dropping him back into the rushing stream. Fragments of shattered branches rained around him. The soldiers had no intention of allowing him to escape. Still, the creek carried him onward. Its speed increased as the banks narrowed. The water twisted between rocks, pulling him around sharp bends, dragging him ever farther from the bridge. Gradually, the rifle fire became less frequent. The voices grew fainter. The bridge itself disappeared behind the trees. Only the river remained. Peyton swam at last, not to outrun his pursuers, but simply to guide himself towards the southern bank. His limbs ached with exhaustion. His throat burned where the rope had pressed against him. His wrists were raw from the cords that had bound them. Yet every stroke carried him farther from death. At length, his feet brushed gravel. He stumbled forward, half crawling, half walking, until he reached the muddy shore. For several moments he could do nothing except lie upon the ground, breathing. The earth beneath him felt wonderfully solid, warm beneath the morning sun, covered with fallen leaves and soft moss. He pressed both hands into the soil. Never had ordinary earth seemed so miraculous. He laughed, not loudly, not with joy alone, but with the overwhelming relief of one who had been granted life twice in a single morning. When strength finally returned, he rose. The forest stood before him, dense and unfamiliar. Tall trees stretched upward until their branches merged into a canopy of green. The air smelled of pine, wet earth, and wild flowers. There was no road, no farmhouse, no sign of human life, only the woods. Somewhere beyond them, home. Peyton chose a direction almost at random. He began to walk. Behind him, far beyond the trees, the faint echo of the cannon rolled one final time across the valley. Then, silence. He did not look back, not once. Whatever remained upon Owl Creek Bridge belonged to another life. Ahead lay only the long journey home, and with every step, the memory of the news, the soldiers, and the bridge itself seemed to drift farther away. The forest received him without question. No voices pursued him, no rifle shots shattered the quiet, no soldiers appeared among the trees. Only the steady murmur of the wind accompanied his progress. Peyton Farquhar walked. At first, he could scarcely remain on his feet. Every muscle trembled with exhaustion. His clothing clung heavily to his body, still soaked from the creek. His boots squelched softly with each step. Yet he continued. Home lay somewhere ahead. That single thought carried him onward. He knew neither the direction nor the distance. The woods around him were unfamiliar. The sun filtered through towering branches in shifting patterns, making it difficult to judge the passing hours. Still, he pressed on. The ground beneath his feet rose and fell gently. Roots crossed the narrow annual paths. Low branches caught at his leaves. Once, he stumbled over a fallen log and nearly collapsed. He rested only long enough to catch his breath. Then he rose again. Every moment spent standing still, he feared, might allow his pursuers to close the distance. As the day wore on, the forest became increasingly strange. The trees seemed impossibly tall. Their trunks rose like great pillars, disappearing into a canopy so dense that the sky appeared only in scattered fragments. The silence no longer felt natural. There were birds certainly, he heard them often enough, yet they sounded distant, as though singing from another world. Even the wind seemed reluctant to disturb the leaves. At times, Peyton had the unsettling impression that the forest itself was watching him. He dismissed the thought immediately. Fatigue, he told himself, nothing more. Still, there remained something unusual about the place. The spaces between the trees appeared oddly regular, almost deliberate. The branches intertwined above him in curious patterns. The shadows stretched farther than they should. More than once he thought he recognized the same fallen tree, the same twisted roots, the same moss-covered stone. Yet each time he turned, the landscape appeared entirely different. He continued walking. There was nothing else to do. Before long, another discomfort demanded his attention: his throat. The rope had left a deep bruise around his neck. Every swallow brought a sharp pain. His mouth had grown unbearably dry. He searched for another stream, listening carefully for the sound of running water. None came. Only leaves, only wind. The thirst became almost unbearable. His tongue felt swollen, his lips cracked. The simple act of breathing irritated his throat. He imagined cool water flowing over smooth stones. He pictured the clear creek beside his own home, where he had often paused after long days in the fields. Soon, he promised himself, soon. Gradually, the afternoon light faded. The forest darkened. One by one, the first stars appeared above the treetops. Peyton stopped. He looked upward. Never had the night sky seemed so brilliant. Thousands of stars stretched across the heavens. Some burned with cold white light, others glowed faintly blue. The familiar constellations seemed strangely altered, their angles unfamiliar, their distances somehow impossible. He frowned. For reasons he could not explain, the stars appeared wrong. He tried to remember the lessons of childhood, the North Star, the great constellations, the patterns by which travelers found their way. Yet nothing seemed quite as he remembered. The thought unsettled him. Exhaustion, deciding once again. Surely exhaustion. Quite suddenly the forest ended. Before him stretched a broad road. It was unlike any road Peyton Farquhar had ever travelled. Wide, straight, perfectly white beneath the moonlight. It extended ahead in a flawless line, disappearing into the distant darkness without a single bend. No wheel tracks marked its surface. No footprints disturbed the pale dusk. No fences bordered its edges. No houses overlooked it. It seemed less like a road built by men than one waiting for them. Peyton hesitated only a moment. If there was a road, it must surely lead somewhere. And somewhere beyond all of this lay home. He began walking once more. His pace quickened. The thought of his wife returned. He imagined her waiting on the veranda as evening settled across the plantation, wondering why he had not returned, listening for approaching hoofbeats, looking towards the road every few minutes. He pictured the warm light shining from the windows, the familiar scent of supper drifting into the evening air, the laughter of his children. He smiled despite his exhaustion. Not much farther now, surely not much farther. The night grew strangely luminous. The white road stretched endlessly before him, and somewhere beyond its distant horizon, someone he loved was waiting. The road seemed endless, yet Peyton Parker no longer questioned it. He walked with quiet determination, his thoughts fixed upon a single destination: home. The very word had become a source of strength. It steadied his breathing. It lightened the weight of exhaustion upon his limbs. Every step carried him closer, or so he believed, to the life that had nearly been taken from him. The night remained strangely clear. The moon hung low above the trees, casting long silver shadows across the road. The air was perfectly still, not a single leaf stirred. He listened for the sounds of the countryside he knew so well: a barking dog, the distant lowing of a cattle, the creak of a wagon, the call of a night bird. Nothing. Only his own footsteps, and the steady beating of his heart. Hours seemed to pass, or perhaps only minutes. Time no longer possessed its ordinary meaning. Sometimes he felt as though he had walked for an entire day. At other moments it seemed impossible more than a few breaths had passed since that bridge. His body ached, his feet were blistered. The bruise around his neck throbbed with every heartbeat. Yet the pain itself reassured him. Pain belonged to the living. He welcomed it. Far ahead, the darkness began to soften. The eastern sky slowly brightened. Grey became silver, silver became pale gold. Morning. He had survived the night. A profound sense of relief settled over him. Whatever dangers had pursued him, the soldiers, the rifles, the bridge, they were now impossibly far behind. He was almost home. As dawn spread across the countryside, the road finally became familiar. The trees, the fences, the gentle rise of the land. He knew this place. He had traveled this road countless times before. His pace quickened. There, beyond a line of ancient oaks, stood the entrance to his estate. The white fence, the broad drive, the house beyond. Its windows glowed softly in the first light of morning. For a long moment, Peyton simply stood. He had imagined the sight so many times during the long night. Now it was real. He crossed the gate. His footsteps sounded strangely light upon the gravel. The garden lay exactly as he remembered. Flowers nodded gently in the morning air. The great trees cast familiar shadows across the lawn. Everything appeared untouched by war, untouched by fear, untouched by death. It was as though he had awakened from a terrible dream. Then the front door opened. A woman stepped onto the veranda. She paused. She saw him. For one suspended instant, neither moved. Then she came toward him. She descended the steps quickly, almost running. Her face shone with relief, with joy, with love. She wore a light dress that stirred softly in the morning breeze. Her hair caught the first rays of sunlight, forming a gentle halo around her head. To Peyton, she appeared almost radiant, more beautiful than memory had allowed. He stretched out his arms. Every hardship, every fear, every mile had led to this single moment. He smiled. She smiled in return. Only a few more steps, only a few more heartbeats. He reached towards her. A blinding white light, a violent blow at the back of his neck. Pain, not the dull ache of exhaustion, not the burning of the rope. A single, instantaneous, shattering pain. Then, darkness. Peyton Fuqua was dead. His body, with a broken neck, swung gently from side to side beneath the timbers of Owl Creek Bridge. Ambrose Bierce never tells us exactly when Peyton's imagined escape begins. That uncertainty is the story's greatest strength. For nearly the entire tale, we experience the world through Peyton's senses, his fear, his hope, his desperate longing to return home. As listeners, we believe what he believes. Bierce, who served as a Union soldier during the American Civil War, understood the fragility of life and the strange elasticity of time under extreme stress. Rather than writing a conventional war story, he explored the inner landscape of a mind, facing its final instant. More than a century later, An Occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge remains one of the most influential short stories ever written. Its ending has inspired countless films, television episodes, and writers, but few have matched the quiet power of Bierce's original. This was An Occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge, written by Ambrose Bierce, read right here as the listening room edition. If you enjoyed this classic, subscribe and return next time as we open another timeless work of literature together. Until then, remember that the mind is capable of extraordinary journeys, even in the smallest fraction of a second.